So for this, just start with your feet about shoulder width apart. Doesn't have to be too precise. Feet more or less parallel. Hands at the sides of the body. We're just going to do some Daoist Snake Qigong warm-ups. And so the first one is you're just going to begin letting the hands sway forward and back. A little bit of turning of the hips. Just one hand goes forward, one hand goes back, palms facing behind you. Here we're moving probably a little bit faster than the breath, and so just let the rhythm of your breath be one thing and the movements are another. And I'll just show you from the side. Just kind of let the arms sort of sway in a kind of serpentine-like motion. Nothing too precise here, just beginning to get a sense of turning and flowing, and the hips can turn with it. And maybe without worrying too much about getting it too precise, focus on the forward stroke, like the front of the wrist as it comes forward with each hand. And let that kind of lead the way. So when your left hand comes forward, imagine the left wrist comes forward and the hip kind of follows along, almost as if there's like a magnetic connection. So the forward motion of the wrist each way is initiating the movement. And then see if you can make it like the heel of the hand going back is what's initiating the movement. It might not look any different from the outside, but the focus is the movement back of one hand and then the other, like the heel of the hand. And the hips are kind of following along with that. And then make the movement initiate from the hip movement forward. You might even just put the hands on the hips, remember, just turning the hips. And the hip is going forward, and then the hand is moving forward with the hip. And then as the hip goes back each side, the hand is following. So, the timing might not actually be any different, but it might be that the hips are kind of initiating the movement one direction, the other just a little before the hands and the arms. And if it all feels the same, guess what? That's totally fine. Here you're going to bring the hands up a little bit higher now. And you're going to begin wiping the tabletop. A big figure eight. Maybe have the tabletop be about the height of your solar plexus. So a little bit higher than your navel, just at the base of the sternum, more or less. And there are big sweeping movements. And the hand swings out and forward. Comes back in, and the other hand comes out and forward. So just sort of initiate, just sort of feel the movement of like the inside of the forearm and along the line to the thumb as it comes forward. It's like sweeping. Maybe you're just sweeping stuff off the table or gathering it in. And then see what it's like to begin to focus on the elbow as the elbow moves back each side. You might even kind of follow with the eyes, kind of turning back a little bit more. Same kind of sweeping figure eights, but it focuses on the elbow. Just to kind of discover what it's like when you change the focus. Lower the hands down a little bit, so now it's kind of toward the height of your navel. A little bit lower than before. You can kind of slow it down. And come back into the forward and back movements here. Slow it down a little bit. The amplitude of the waves on the side is getting a little bit lower and lower. And then come down to a still point. Those are variations playing around with warm-up exercises that I could do with anything, I guess, but I was taught these as being part of or connected to a version of what's called Daoist Snake Frolic or Daoist Snake Qigong. Now we're going to do a move that comes out of a breathing set that goes with it. And so, we started with these movements forward and back. Well, now take your right arm, if you're going to mirror me, You're going to breathe in through the nose as the hand comes up. And the hand's going to kind of point out to the side. It's kind of just off to the side of the shoulder. Hands facing forward, and like this will be like a snake head. And you're going to push it forward and hiss through the teeth. You can turn the hip with it a little bit. And you're going to breathe into the nose as you pull that hand back in toward the shoulder, and then breathe out through the nose as you send it out to the side and forward and back in on the front. You're going to spiral down, palm facing down, and go about 3 times. You're going to breathe in through the nose. Now, if you remember me, the left hand comes up. Hiss. Breathe back in through the nose. Breathe out through the nose. As you just spiral it forward and then back in along the center line of the body 3 or more times as it goes down. Breathing in, the right arm comes up. Breathe back into the nose. Breathe out through the nose as you spiral it down. Breathe in through the nose. A few more like this. One more coming up. Could move on through a set of breathing exercises, but let's just go from this one right now back to the swaying back and forth. And just notice how this feels. Does this feel any different now than it did before? And you can bring it up and begin the figure eights of wiping the tabletop. Just kind of play around, like what happens when you bring your attention to the pads of your fingertips, and maybe the palm. You can just keep it there, just playing with that, or you might, if it feels good, just begin to notice what it's like to bring the attention to the inside line of the forearm and a line of the hand leading up to the thumb, like you're sweeping forward and in. Come back to the elbows, just kind of focus on the elbow pushing back each side. And you can let the movement become bigger, or you can emphasize the place where the attention and the intention to initiate from is going. Or you can just let it be all such that it looks the same from the outside, but the intention and the focus of attention is a little bit different. All right, now I'm going to bring the hands just into a circle. And I guess let's actually make the circle so we're all going, as you look down, mirror me. So as you look down, your hands are going clockwise. So you're going from your left side to the right out in front and pulling back in. And then you're going to step out a little bit forward with your right foot if you're mirroring me. And right now we're just kind of like wiping that tabletop still. But we're in a little bit of something like in Chinese martial arts, like a modified bow stance. So your back foot, your left foot is 45 degrees. Your front foot might be facing straight into the screen. I don't know if you can see my foot. You're shifting the hips forward as the hands come forward and across to your right. And you're shifting hips back as your weight is back, and your hands are moving from the right to the left. You're just wiping the tabletop. And then you can adjust the distance between your feet if you want. And just begin kind of dragging or letting the hands flow like you're stirring the pot. There's a big pot or cauldron in front of you, and you're stirring it. And then you're going to begin to turn the palms out as if you're wiping the inside of the bowl furthest away, and you're going to shift back. And you're going to turn the hands, but they're still now facing out, wiping the outside of the bowl. So you're wiping the inside of the bowl, wiping the outside of the bowl, and you might take a wider and lower stance if you want, or you can keep it a little bit more upright and narrow. And so here, if you're mirroring me, your right foot is forward, your left foot is back, and your hands are moving in big clockwise circles. And then you can let the hands kind of just flow, like drifting down with the fingers like you're stirring it. And then coming back to like wiping the countertop. And then you're going to bring that foot back. So you're now just stirring in front of you. The weight can shift a little bit with it if you like, but your feet are kind of parallel to each other, maybe a little bit wider than shoulder width apart. And then we're going to make it a little bit more funky here. So both hands are going to come forward, out on your left side, and then you're going to come diagonally back, kind of behind you to your right, if you remember, and then come forward, and then come back. So we're now doing those figure eight movements. But we're doing them with both hands together. So it's like you're wiping the tabletop, but maybe now you got like a big kind of heavy rag or washcloth or I don't know, sponge, and you're wiping the tabletop, but you want to use two hands with it. And make these figure eights really big. You're coming behind you, out in front, and behind you on this side, out in front, crossing in front. Just kind of playing with the flowing motion here. All right, then with your circles, as you're out to your left in front, and you come back to the right, and now you're just going to transition into circles. And as you look down at your hands, if you're mirroring me, your hands are going counterclockwise, wiping the table. And then you can step forward with your left foot, have your back foot at 45-degree angle, and now we're coming into the stirring the pot, washing the bowl sequence on the other side. Just let the rhythm of your breath be natural. You're not trying to bring it into phase with the movement, but you're just stirring. Actually now with the hands stir, you're just letting the hands kind of flow through it. Begin to turn the palms out, wiping the inside of the bowl furthest away, and then turning out again, wiping the outside closest to you. So this movement here, this kind of what we call washing the bowl version of it, is a movement from one of the Hunyuan Qigong, or the primordial Qigong sets. You can do it just by itself or as part of like this bespoke sequence we're doing here. And then coming back to just wiping the surface and bring that left foot back. So now your feet are parallel and you're wiping the surface. And then however you get there, come back to waving the hands to the sides of the body. Forward and back, forward. Let that gradually come down toward a still point. Eyes can be open or closed. Turn your feet out about 45 degrees. And you're going to bring the hands up. Big sweeping motion. Palms are going to be down like you're imagining lowering energy, just guiding it down to the height of your navel. You're going to pause briefly, turn your elbow point, center of each palm toward the navel, like you're storing there. We're going to do this 3 times. It's called lowering the chi 3 times. down to the height of the navel, turn the palms gratefully toward it. And then third time, big sweeping arc, and place the hands over the navel. And we'll do this Hunyuan style. So for this practice, women are invited to place the left hand inward, touching the body. And the left or yin hand for women is touching the body here, covered with the right or yang hand on the outside. And for men, it's the reverse. Right or yang hand is touching the body, covered with the left or yin, or whichever way feels better. But your Lao Gong points are lined up either way. The knees are soft, not locked. And just close the eyes for a moment and breathe. And then when you're ready, you can release, let that down. Let's do some working with the legs. So in the vision of the body we're going to play with here, imagine that energy or chi at some level flows down the back / outside of the legs, around the feet, and it comes up the inside / front. So the legs, it goes down the outside, up the inside. And we're going to start with what's called single leg ascending and descending. This one, feet more or less about shoulder width apart for the heels. Feet are angled out. I don't think you can quite see my feet fully, but trust me. And start with your left leg. I'll mirror you. Just have the hands hovering kind of over the thigh. And just imagine you're somehow able to draw chi with the hands with attention, just coming up from the earth along the inside of the leg, and the hands are going to come up without touching the body up to the height of the navel. They're going to go down the outside of the right. Just imagine you can project it down around the right foot. It comes up the inside to the height of the navel, down the outside. And just imagine you can send it down and around. If you can feel moving the chi, then you go ahead and do that. That rocks too, but just all I gotta do is just make the motions and kind of imagine it happening. So up to the navel, down the outside of one leg, up the inside, down the outside of the other leg, up the inside, just like that. And you can do it just like this. This is a complete move, but if you want a little bit more working of the body, then as an option, you can squat your butt back and kind of trace the hands down along the legs. If you're squatting your butt back like this, you don't have to go as low as I'm going. You could go lower. But try to keep both knees angled out. That is, don't turn the opposite knee back in. And try to let your butt go back like you're squatting down on a stool behind you. That can help protect the knees. And you could do like an inversion where you hinge forward at the waist. But we're not really doing like a hatha yoga inversion here. We're letting the butt go back, and then as we come up, we're pressing the legs and lifting. So down the outside, around the foot, up the inside. This is single leg ascending and descending. Down the outside, up the inside. Down the outside, up the inside, just like that. Let the rhythm of your breath be natural. It doesn't need to be brought into phase with the movement of the body here. Just let it be natural. That is whatever it wants to be. Just breathe and focus on the movement of the body. Down the outside, up the inside. Down the outside, up the inside. We're going to do one more each leg. Down, around, and up. Down, around, and up. And then bring the feet to shoulder width apart if they've gone and adjusted away from that. We're going to lower the chi 3 times. Down to the height of the navel. 1, 2, 3, all the way down. Hands over the navel. Lao Gong points lined up, one over the other, center point of the palm lined up. For this form, women would have the left or yin hand inward, the right or yang hand out. For men, it's the reverse. The right or yang hand is in, touching the body, and the left or yang hand is out. And then release. All right, now we're going to do double leg ascending and descending. So feet a little bit wider than shoulder width apart this time. Not real wide, that would suck, but a little bit wider might be helpful. Now we're going to do both legs at the same time. So you take the hands, cover them on both thighs. Come up to the height of the navel. Go down the outside, around the foot, around both feet, up the inside. Down the outside, around the feet, up the inside, just like that. the rhythm of your breath is natural, just using intention to send or imagine sending energy down the legs and then drawing it up the front / inside the legs. And you can do it just like this, or if you want, if you say, hey, I haven't had enough squatting today, then you can squat the butt back and kind of trace down along the feet. Knees angle out, butt goes back to help encourage the knees not to go in front of the big toes. Shoulders are up. You could hinge forward if you want, but that's not the move that we're playing with. This is double leg ascending and descending. And just like the single leg ascending and descending we did before, there's an energetic story here for this one, that by doing this, you're stimulating the kidney 1 acupuncture point on the bottom of each foot. I imagine there's little in the way of what many of my scientist friends would describe as legitimate evidence for that claim, but that's okay for my purposes. You take it as you see fit. Down the outside, up the inside, down the outside, up the inside. I'm going to do 3 more. Down the outside, up the inside, down and up. Last one of this move. I'm going to lower the chi 3 times. 1, down to the head and navel. Turn the Laogong points toward the navel. 2, 3, all the way down. Hands over the navel, eyes are closed. Always the option to keep the eyes open if you prefer. Knees are soft, and just notice the touch of the hands over the navel. Observe your breathing and just see what there is to see. And then release. Let's bring this toward a closing. So in Hunyuan Qigong, in Daoist Qigong, we work with what are called dantian spaces, cinnabar field or elixir field spaces. On this form, there's a dantian between the eyebrows, like inside the head, behind the upper dantian is there. There's a middle dantian at your navel, and then the pelvic floor, it's called the meeting point of yin, at your perineum, there's a lower dantian. So it's upper, middle, lower. We're going to gather chi from the sides to the 3 dantians. Actually, we're just going to gather it to the navel for this version of it. So take a little bit of a wider stance. You're going to shift over to your left. You could start the other way, but let's start together to your left. And then the hand's going to sweep across as you shift the weight that way to your, I guess that was your right, now to your left, right? You're going to pull back, like you're shifting the weight back, you're pulling with that hand into the navel. You come out, around, and back. So you're shifting around, you're sweeping motions. A little bit like what we were doing earlier with Daoist Snake Qigong warm-ups. Similar but different, I guess. You're sweeping around and back. Just gathering it all in. And you can just make the shapes, as one of my teachers used to say, make the movements, make the shape. Or you could, if you like, just kind of imagine that that you're sweeping back. It's whatever it is, the mess around you and in the world, and you're just gathering it back and you're inviting it in to the space in your navel where you can churn it and digest it and transform it, and maybe guide it somehow back to the primordial chaotic state in which it all emerged. Or if you like, you can just sweep the hand around. That works too. So this is a movement from, the way we're doing it here is more like the movement from the 12-move Hunyuan Qigong set. We're kind of mixing and matching though today. That's okay. Sweeping around and back a couple more times. back to shoulder width apart, feet angled out, about 45 degrees. We're going to lower the chi 3 times down to the height of the navel. 1, turn the palms to the navel. 2, and then 3, down, hands over the navel. If you want to follow the sex, gender-based suggestion, then women would have the left or yin hand touching the body, men would have the right or yang hand touching the body. Either way, though, is fine. Just pause for a moment with the eyes closed. Eyes can be open if you prefer, of course. And then, whichever hand is touching the body, just slide that hand in that direction along your abdomen about 3 or 4 inches. So you're still touching the abdomen. Both hands have gone together. Elbow points are lined up, but now if your right hand is touching the body, then you've moved a few inches to the right of the navel. If your left hand is touching the body, a few inches to the left, and then you're going to circle down below the navel and up the other side. Eyes can be either open or closed for this. You're just kind of stirring and kind of rubbing the abdomen around the navel. You're churning things up inside. And then you get the circles to be a little bit bigger and the hands are a bit lighter on the body, until at some point you're getting the hands bigger and bigger and the hands come off the body. And they're not touching your body and they're not quite touching each other, but it's like you're stirring the space around you, both inside and out, and it's getting bigger and bigger. And just imagine you're stirring up into the sky and down into the earth, big sweeping circles, and maybe circling all around the globe and out into space, and then just kind of stirring throughout the whole solar system. And if it feels like you might reach further, just stir as far out as you can. And then you're going to come down to the bottom and you're going to reverse it, stir it up and back. You're gathering it back in, smaller and smaller circles, just churning it back, and then at some point it's going to be more like you're stirring just inside the body than out. And begin rubbing your abdomen. Hands circle back and spiral around the abdomen, and then when you're ready, just bring it all to a still point. Lagom points over the navel. Eyes are closed, or if you prefer, like half open lids with a gentle downward glance. And to close our practice, just take a moment and observe whatever is arising or seems to be arising inside your body. Notice whatever is arising at the surface of your body. And observe and notice whatever there is that feels like it's coming from outside. And then when you're ready, you can release the hands. You can step out of it, you can look around. Just kind of notice how you feel. That's our practice for today. Go about your day and pretend that nothing